What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Draft Hub. Today, we're going to be taking a look at my top 10 guards in the 2026 NFL Draft. Now, just like every other video in this series so far, there's only 15 guys that we're going to be talking about. So, obviously, the top 10, and then we go five honorable mentions. So, there's going to be some guys in here that I probably won't speak about that you're going to say, oh, I can't believe, I turned off this video after I saw this player wasn't on it. Okay, whatever. Just do what you got to do. If you don't like the video, that's fine. But yeah, so we're only going to talk about 15 guys in this one here. And I'll be honest with you, after initially thinking this guard class wasn't really that strong, it's kind of grown on me so far through the draft cycle. I feel like a lot of guys have emerged as some, really decent options at the NFL level. And I feel like it's very deep going towards like late day two, early day three. So that's kind of where a lot of these guys I think are going to get selected. And that's where, a lot of these high level guards at the NFL level are kind of selected anyway. So yeah, without further delay, let's get into it. Let's go to our honorable mentions first. So I have five honorable mentions. I have Jalen Farmer from Kentucky, Inez Cooper from Miami, DJ Campbell from Texas, Kobe Baines from Kansas, and Armaj Reed Adams from Texas A&M. Let's start with Farmer. Farmer has been one of the guys in recent weeks over the last 10 days or so that has jumped up a lot of people's draft boards. And I'm there, but not quite there yet. I think Josh Braun and Jalen Farmer are actually, you know, probably one of the better teams in this draft class that have together for Kentucky. We're a really good combination this past year. Farmer is young. He's super like, haven't put everything together yet, but the projection is there. I could very easily see by the time that after the combine is over and by the time that the NFL draft rolls around, I could see a team taking Farmer with a top 100 pick because the athleticism is there, the overall size is there as well. The moldability of his game is there. His malleableness is there because of just how young and how raw of a talent he is. But he displayed good power. He displays great athleticism, and I think just maybe if he would have stayed another year, he probably would have been a top 50 selection. And as Cooper, 6'6", 350 pounds, an absolute monster from Miami, kind of, in my opinion, was I shouldn't say the unsung hero, but the guy that got the least publicity on the offensive line for the Miami Hurricane this past year. Really, really came into his own. A phenomenal run blocker, great pass blocker as well, and surprisingly nimble on his feet at 350 pounds. I really wanted to put him higher in this video. I couldn't do it with the guys that were ahead of him. I didn't want to just sneak him on there at number 10 just because. But I think Inez Cooper is a player that's probably going to get selected, probably inside the top 150, top 175. That's going to give you like starting guard appeal right away from day one. DJ Campbell is another player that I like quite a bit. Great size as well. You're looking at someone that's going to be around that 6'5", 6'6", 315 to 325-pound mark. Just an overall extremely solid player. Right guard for Texas over the last few years. He is someone that no bells and whistles. He does a lot of things really well, but nothing spectacular. And if he was a better athlete, he'd probably be in my top 10. But I think he's a player that's probably going to get selected inside the top 125, 150. That's probably going to be a plug and play starter on either guard position, to be quite honest with you. Like I said, a good run blocker, great pass blocker as well. Just not really as nearly athletic as a lot of the other guys on this list. And that's kind of where he loses points for me. Same thing with Kobe Baines. Baines does a lot of things really well for Kansas. Good athletic frame. The only problem is that I feel like he gets overmatched a lot as well. So when I was watching him, I felt like he was consistently getting pushed back. So the play strength might not be, he's not your typical mauling, run blocking, physical beast of a guard for me. He is a good run blocker, but I feel like he doesn't have that mauling nature to him. He's more of a finesse blocker, in my opinion. But Baines is another super solid option that scored very highly in a lot of key areas for guards. So he's a player that I'm not sure why isn't getting a lot of love. He's someone that's kind of a fringe top 10 guard for me. Like I said, he's athletic. If he just had a touch more play strength, I feel like he'd be really in comparison with the top 10 guys. And Armaj Reed Adams is just another one of those super solid players, 6'6", 317 pounds in the middle. Doesn't do anything particularly fantastic, but just a really solid overall guard for Texas A&M. The athleticism is there, the overall length is there as well, and the tenacity as a pass blocker and as a run blocker is certainly there. I just like some guys better, but these are guys that absolutely I had to mention. These were the guys that I was really head scratching at the end of my list, going, man, where am I going to fit these guys in? I'm going to have to put them in honorable mention. So let's slide into the top 10 now. It may be a surprise for some of you guys, but I have Micah Morris as my 10th best guard in the class. Someone that, if you look at PFN, he's probably in like the 300s as a prospect grade. If you look at PFF, he's in the low 200s. He's just someone that I think has been such an unbelievably consistent player for Georgia over his career. And he has significant experience at both guard spots as well. The last couple years on the left side and on the right side the year before that. So my thing is how I really got into the Micah Morris stock is trying to understand the Monroe Freeling hype was also understanding Micah Morris as well, because they both play on the left side for the Georgia Bulldogs this past year. And I thought to myself, as early on in the draft cycle, as I was trying to understand the early Monroe Freeling hype, I thought to myself, whoa, 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 this guard is kind of stealing a lot of my attention here. This guy is rock solid as an anchor, great pass protector, good enough run blocker as well, who can get out there, has the overall quick feet, the athleticism. He's not going to blow you away as a run blocker. He's good enough, but as a pass blocker, he's really, really solid. A 84 overall pass blocking grade this past season. Didn't give up a sack in his entire collegiate career as well. Doesn't really give up hits, hurries, or pressures. He's only given up, what, 4 quarterback hits in his time at Georgia. And you can argue that there's been a lot of talent around him as well on the offensive line, sure. But Micah Morris has been the constant on this offensive line over the past 3 years. And he's a player that at 6'6", 330 pounds, and his fleet of foot, I guess I would say, and his overall power as a run blocker and his overall anchor, I feel like it warrants much more praise than we're currently getting in this draft cycle. And I am going to be one of those guys that's going to plant my flag on Micah Morris. We might not see it right away. He might not be a starter right away. Who knows? Maybe he's not even drafted at this point. But everyone's top 10 is different, and Micah Morris is a player that definitely has caught my attention. At 9, I have Cage Casey. Now, I didn't preface this list by saying what I wanted to say at the beginning. I kind of forgot. There are going to be some tackles that are going to be converted to guard at the NFL level, and I think Cage Casey is one of those players. And Casey is a former 5-star recruit. Let's not forget about that. 6'5", 311 pounds, has basically been a mainstay on the Boise State offensive line for the past 3 years and has been really, really good. 2024 was obviously his best season overall with Boise State, which kind of was everyone's best season really with Boise State. Obviously, he was blocking for Ashton Jeanty as well. So he's a big reason why Jeanty had such an amazing season. But he's just probably one of the best overall well-rounded offensive line prospects that's a tweener in this entire draft class, in my opinion. I know it's kind of crazy saying that you have a person that has played one overall snap at the guard position in his collegiate career is going to convert to guard at the NFL level. But you look at the overall length, the overall strength and athleticism, you're looking at more of a guard, because he's a player that I think gets beat to the spot quite often as a tackle in terms of overall speed to a certain spot against speed rushers. So the overall lateral agility and quickness just isn't quite there for the tackle position, specifically more specifically more the left side of the offensive line. But a transition to the inside of guard, he has plenty of power as well. He's a player that doesn't really look physically imposing as an interior offensive line player, a little bit lighter in the bridges at 311 pounds and 6'5", but he's incredibly strong, anchors very well. The arm length also is something that's probably going to be better suited to play inside as well. I don't think that he's going to have over 33-inch arms. And I'm not someone that usually tries to play into the whole arm length thing, because I think there are certain outliers at every position. I'm arguing until I'm blue in the face about Ruben Bain Jr. having, 30-inch arms, but being an unbelievable playmaker at the position. But Cage Casey is a player that I think if he reduces inside, I think his overall pedigree and his just overall quality as a player is going to shine through. And he's going to be someone that can start very, very early right away if he does make that swap to the inside. So he is one of a few. I believe I have 3 converted tackles to guard. So a little bit of a projection from my standpoint. But I do think when it's all said and done, these guys are going to be making the switch to the inside. At 8, I have Bo Stevens. Now, granted, You gotta just stick with the mantra that if and some people are gonna get upset about this, and just know that this is more satire than anything, but if they are white and if they play on the offensive line at Iowa, just draft them. That's really just the kind of notion that you gotta go with here. Bo Stevens is a really great player, kinda had to come into his own, over the course of, a couple of years. Last year wasn't the greatest season for him, but it was much improved. And this past season, he was really, really good, specifically as a pass blocker. As a run blocker in more of a gap scheme, he didn't really perform too great overall. But as a zone blocker in the run game, he was very, very good. Just I'm going to read you off some of these overall grades that he had for the season. He was really, really good. As a zone grade in run blocking, an 89 and a half, an overall run blocking grade of 83, almost 92 pass blocking grade as well. He's just someone that's got all the goods. He has the length, he has the athleticism, he has the anchor. That's what I'm looking for. The pulling ability, the speed, the seek and destroy that I like from pulling guards as well. That's a big thing for me, especially in the run game. I like using the term seek and destroy because there's a lot of times that you find guards will after getting to the second level of the defense kind of make that one block and kind of leave their feet and kind of make sure that they wipe that one player out. But there are certain players that will seek and destroy, that will, get off of a block and continue moving forward and continue to block into that third level and into the secondary. And that's what I see a lot from Bo Stevens as well. A very, very athletic player, just an overall really, really solid player that I don't think that we've seen his ceiling yet. And I like to draft ascending players. I don't like to look at a player and go, well, you've been this good for the past 3 years, so I don't really know how much better you can get. With Stevens, it's been a steady uphill incline in terms of his performance over the last 3 seasons. A couple years ago, he wasn't great. Last year, he was pretty good. This year, he was very, very good for the Hawkeyes. And like I said, he's got that anchor as a pass blocker. It just starches interior defensive linemen in terms of pass blocking. Let me see if I could pull up one of his. Yeah, I mean, in 304 pass blocking snaps this season for the Iowa Hawkeyes, he gave up 0 sacks. No surprise. A lot of guards have 0 sacks, 0 hits, and only 4 hurries in 304 pass blocking snaps. He was exceptional. He's a player that's on the rise, and I think by the time that the NFL Combine is over, he could probably be higher than eighth on a lot of other people's rankings. At 7, I have Keelan Rutledge, and if you're a fan of for a good bit during this draft cycle, you know that I've been Keelan Rutledge's ass, you know, 3, 4 months at this. I made an NFL draft gems short about Keelan Rutledge, uh, months ago, and I said that this guy is really good, and he really, really showed out for the Yellow Jackets this past season for Georgia Tech. Just an exceptional overall player. Has that kind of sneaky athleticism because you look at let's judge a book by its cover for a second here. Look at this picture. First off, Keelan Rutledge looks like he's like 45 years old in this photo. He's also kind of squat, kind of, looks a little unathletic. But then you watch him play and you're thinking, my goodness, this guy is an absolute mauler, specifically in the run game as well. He's just he's one of the strongest players in this draft class, and I wouldn't be surprised at the NFL Combine if he does show that during the bench press. The quickness is there as well. Is he the quickest guard in the world? No, he does play over his toes a little bit too often for my liking. So it looks like sometimes he's a little off balance in pass coverage, but he's going to make his money as a run blocker, and he's good enough as a pass blocker as well. He's someone that just the overall strength is going to be able to carry him, and his overall anchor is going to be able to make up for some of those mistakes. But like I said, I would love to see him kind of balance himself out a little bit more. It does feel like he's kind of falling over his feet sometimes. That's something that you don't like to see from a guard position. But Rutledge is a player that has been really exceptional, specifically this past year for Georgia Tech. As a run blocker, true pass set grade of 84.6, which is nice to see as well. But as a run blocker at a gap run blocker or a zonal run blocker, he's well versed in both. Really, really strong overall player, and he's a player that I think is going to be selected inside the top 125. That's going to be able to plug and play right away at either guard position at the NFL level. At 6, I have Brian Parker II. Now, this is another one of my projections here in this one, but this seems kind of the consensus for the NFL draft community. Brian Parker II is actually one of the most exciting players, in my opinion, in this draft class, because you think of a few years ago, who was the player that came out? Graham Barton, I want to say, from Duke as well. He was another one of these Duke athletes. And I use athlete as the term to describe him because Graham Barton was a player that you were like, well, he could play tackle, he could play guard, and he could play center. So really, he's an exceptional all around player that can play all five offensive line positions. And that's kind of the same thing that I feel about Brian Parker II. 6'5, 305 pounds, incredibly athletic, very, very technical blocker as well. Gets his hand placement right almost every time. The only thing for me at 6'5, 305 pounds, he's going to be more of your athletic guard. He's not a physically imposing guard. He's not a mauler. Has significant play strength, though, has a good anchor and is able to pull and is able to, second, third level, no problem for Brian Parker II. He's technically gifted. He's very, very talented, very, very athletic, but he's not going to be the overall mauler. And that's where he might, lose some points with some guys, is that he's going to be more of your finesse blocker. So if he goes up against a Vita Vea, say, how is he going to get dominated, in the A gap or the B gap because of how much physically stronger these other guys are. But Brian Parker II is honestly one of those players that I can see starting at all five offensive line positions. I just think overall the football IQ, the finesse, the technical ability, the foot quickness, the footwork itself is really, really strong as well, because you're looking at a player, again, 6'5", 305 is pretty light for a guard, especially in today's NFL. You're seeing guys that are, look, Mekhi Becton played guard for the last couple of years, and what is he, 6'8", 360 pounds or whatever? So, yeah, 6'5", 305 is a significant, difference than what Mekhi Becton was playing at, or even someone like Caden Proctor, who some people are saying could transition better to play guard at the NFL level. And you're talking about someone that's 6'7", 366 pounds. It's kind of it's interesting to see the projection for some guys, but Parker is a very, very heady football player. The technical ability is kind of off the charts as well. Just kind of knows where to put his hands at all times. Let me see if I can pull up a couple of those stats real quick just for you guys. I know some people like the stats, some people don't. I just like to use it as kind of like a reference point to some of the points that I'm talking about in strengths and weaknesses. So overall, last couple of years have been exceptional for Brian Parker II. And, these teams like Duke, these teams like Kentucky have really been producing some nice offensive line pieces over the past like 5 or 6 years, I feel like. They're kind of becoming, I don't want to say factories, but they're becoming teams that are kind of known for those trench players. But yeah, Brian Parker II, an 85.5 overall grade, 902 offensive snaps. He had a run blocking grade of 89.4 and a pass blocking grade of 83.4. And just a really, really overall strong, athletic, and heady football player. So I think the transition to the inside will be pretty seamless for him, whether it is a guard or a center position. Obviously, remains up to what team drafts him, but I think he could fit perfectly in like a Houston Texans situation. At 5, I have Chase Basantis for Texas A&M, and I'll be the first to admit I see, especially as a Texas A&M fan, I see the potential. To me, this is more of a projection than the overall production on the field, because the production and the grades don't really match the overall talent. You're looking at someone who's incredibly athletic for 6'6", 330 pounds, and has a mauling mentality. He's a very strong football player, very strong. But the thing for me is it didn't really translate over to the tape, in my opinion. There were glimpses of it. There were glimpses of the overall exceptional anchor, over the great pass blocking ability and the athleticism in the run game, and the ability to pull and kind of keep his head on a swivel and keep either the running back clean or the quarterback clean in a collapsing pocket. But Basantis is a player that kind of disappointed me as a run blocker overall this season. I guess you could chalk it up to the fact that the Texas A&M run game itself was a little bit of a disappointment this past year, but he was a much better pass blocker. But there are lapses. He is a young player. He is, ascending as well, but the elite traits are there. The length, the athleticism, the strength, the football IQ, everything is there. The technical ability, the footwork is there as well. He's a player that every time you turn on a game, you see 3 great snaps, maybe 1 or 2 bad snaps. So he's a player that I want to see level out the consistency a little bit more, but I could definitely see Basantos warranting a top 50 pick. I even had him in my last NFL mock draft that I put out a couple weeks ago after the Super Bowl. I even had him as the 32nd overall pick to the Seattle Seahawks, and I could definitely see a team banking on the athletic ability and the upside of this relatively raw talent for Texas A&M. So let's take a look. I want to see the snap count over the last couple of years. So obviously does have the experience at the position. This year was the most offensive snaps he played at 795, but I want to see the development of the traits. That's what I'm looking for. I want to see more consistency from the traits, and I want to be able to see that overall length, strength, and footwork combination kind of work together on a more consistent basis. At 4, I have Billy Schrauth from Notre Dame. Now, Schrauth is relatively a newcomer to everyone's top 10. So I wasn't sure when I heard that Schrauth was going to declare relatively early. I think he's either a true junior or he's a redshirt junior. So, he had eligibility left to go back. Had a little bit of an injury riddled season for Notre Dame. I think he only played in 7 games overall. A little bit of a smaller offensive line prospect for the guard position at 6'4", 305. But when he is on the field, you want to take the Notre Dame game as your prime example for just how good Schrauth could be. Yeah, you're talking about a player that could win a team a football game just by being overall the most dominant offensive lineman on the field. Clean technique, great power for his size. I mean, you're looking at someone who's look at this picture, for example, 6'4", 305 pounds. So look at the size of his arms. I mean, the guy is really strong, like I said, squeaky clean as a pass protector, really athletic as a run blocker as well. Just the grades overall, the proof is in the pudding. An 82.7 overall pass blocking grade, 73.1 overall run blocking grade. I do think he needs to get a little bit better at getting to a spot as a pulling guard. I feel like sometimes he was just a tick too late on the pull, and then he was leaving, kind of lunging towards the defender, trying to make the block, and then obviously that's not going to work. You need to have your feet under you. You need to have, everything lined up. But he would miss a pulling block every once in a while, and it would leave, a lane for the defender to come in and either take Jadarian Price or Jeremiah Love. Good luck, by the way, trying to take either of those guys down. But if you got a free shot, more than likely you'll be able to take them down. But Schrauth, when he was on the field this past season for Notre Dame, I thought was their best overall offensive lineman. He's a player that admittedly wasn't really too high on my radar. And then once I heard that he declared for the draft and then I saw that he was invited to the combine, I was like, all right, well, I try and familiarize myself with every single player that's invited to the combine if I wasn't familiar with them already. And then I was like, you know what? I only turned on Schrauth's tape for 5 or 10 minutes. And I admittedly wasn't really paying too much attention. Then I saw that he was, going to be at the combine. I was like, let me pay a little bit more of attention. Then I turned on USC and I was immediately intrigued by just how athletic and how clean of his technique is. So I think he's just another one of those guys in a long list of Notre Dame offensive linemen that are just going to be good at the NFL level. At 3, I have Gennings Dunker, and this is the last of my 3 tackles converted to guards. And Dunker is a player that is just so gifted, so athletic, and just again, if he plays for Iowa, just really what it kind of do, but 6', 300 pounds for Dunker. He was a player that at the beginning of the season had a very, very strong start to the season and then kind of sort of fell off a little bit as Iowa's season went on. I feel like his performances dipped just a touch in the second half of the season. He was one of the highest graded offensive linemen in the country for the first half of the season. And then, like I said, kind of tailed off a little bit. Still a fantastic season overall. Just such a great pass blocker as well. Really athletic. Look, he's got red hair. He's got a mullet. He plays for Iowa. Do I really even have to go in depth with this? I'm just kidding. But the reason why I have Dunker kind of converting over from tackle to guard is I don't really see the overall functional strength and the anchor to continue to play tackle at the NFL level. I do think when you do see a little bit of that type of struggle on the, as at the tackle position to anchor, it either tells me one thing, it either tells me that you're not getting to a spot quick enough to set yourself and to kind of no pun intended, anchor yourself to that spot, or you're just not functionally strong enough. So I don't know if it's a quickness thing with Dunker because he's obviously extremely strong and incredibly athletic. So I think it's just a quickness thing. I think a move to the inside would probably make him one of the most athletic guards in the NFL right away. And he's going to be a player that's probably going to be selected inside the top 40 or inside the top 50. That's the consensus on Dunker. But he is a player that I think if he does transition to the inside, you're looking at, one of the best, most athletic players in the entire draft class from the interior. At 2, I have Emmanuel Pregnon, and I mean, this guy looks terrifying. Just look at I kind of highlighted it in my last video. If you want to go check out the tackle rankings, I had Isaiah World as an honorable mention, and he was the photo that I used in the background. And you could see Emmanuel Pregnon's face, and it looks like he's just something out of a horror movie. The guy is just incredibly intimidating. He's a huge player, 6'5", 318 pounds, but look at the arm, 35-inch arms, I'm going to say. Either close to 35 or over 35-inch arms, really athletic. This is the thing. So this was a tough one for me in terms of who am I putting at number 1 and number 2, because you have Vega Owane, who is obviously going to be number 1 at this point, and then you have Emmanuel Pregnon, who do different things exceptional. So Pregnon is going to be more of your athletic guard that, guys like a Mike McDaniels type of offense or a like a Kyle Shanahan's type of offense are going to look for from the guard position. You're going to look for more of that lengthier, longer guard that's really athletic that can get out to the second and third level. And then you have Owane, who's your best pass protector in the class in terms of the interior and is a mauler in the run game, who's not going to get out to the second and third level as good enough. He's not as fluent as an athlete, but he is that mauler who's incredibly strong that's probably going to put up like 40 or 42 bench press reps, something crazy like that. But I think the one separating aspect for me was Pregnon is also going to be 25 years old at the time of the NFL season. So a little bit of an older prospect as well. That was kind of really the one of the only differences. And of course, in terms of what you prefer, do you want that, more athletic guard, or do you want a mauler in the trenches? So Pregnon for me gets the slight tick for being, the oldest interior offensive lineman prospect on this list. But man, oh man, did he have an exceptional season for Oregon. You're talking about kind of near perfect numbers across the board. As a run blocker, he was exceptional. A 93 overall zone blocking grade in the run game, an 88.1 overall pass blocking grade. Just really exceptional numbers across the board. And he really, really transformed himself. The last couple of years on the interior, gave up 13 hurries in both seasons in 2024 and 2023. This past year, only 1 sack, given up 2 hits and 2 hurries on the offensive line for him. So much improved. The hand placement improved quite a bit. Getting to the spot improved quite a bit. And the anchor improved quite a bit as well. So Pregnon is a player that, much like a lot of the Oregon Ducks, I feel like kind of just played themselves into the first round. They boosted their draft stock that much. You're looking at, a Kenyon Sadiq. I think Amari Washington would have been a first round pick if he declared for this draft class. You're just looking at a ton of players that are performed extremely well for Dan Lanning in Oregon. And like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if Emmanuel Pregnon's name is called very early in the NFL draft. Specifically, I think he'd be a perfect fit in the Chargers offense. And then at number 1, like I said, I already spoiled it. It's Vega Owane is going to be number 1, 6'4", 328 pounds. The power profile is exceptional, the best in the class, in my opinion. Someone that you kind of name it, he's just really good at. You look at the overall, like I said, the power profile, the hand placement, the overall anchor ability. The guy cannot be moved. You watch the film. I mean, the offensive line in total for Penn State Nittany Lions this past year was not the issue. They had a very, they had Nolan Rucci, they had Drew Shelton, Vega Owane as well. Nick Dawkins was the center as well. So they have a lot of NFL draft prospects that were, very, very good for them this past year. But just, an 87 overall pass blocking grade, a true set of 90.9 overall. As a run blocker, like I said, in terms of being an overall mauler, that's where he's going to win in the run game. He's not going to be a pulling guard. He's not going to be someone that, gets to the second or third level. Athletically, he's not as gifted as some other guys in this class, like an Emmanuel Pregnone or a Gennings Dunker or a Brian Parker II. But overall, in terms of plug and play ability, you're looking at someone that's probably going to be able to make a Pro Bowl or even an All Pro team very early on in his career. So Awane is a player that I'm very high on and have been high on for quite some time. And like I said, he's someone that kind of, when you just kind of you see a prospect and you're like, yeah, that guy is going to be good. Awane is going to be one of those players, especially as a pass blocker, that he's going to be rock solid right away. I could really see a Houston Texans, a San Francisco 49ers, maybe even the Buffalo Bills or the Detroit Lions might be a spot where he actually goes to. They have Tate Ratledge, they have Christian Mahogany. Maybe they take a Vega Awane at I think they have number 16 or 17. But yeah, I could see him going very early on in the first round. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Oh, the Baltimore Ravens are a team that could even take him at number 14. But Awane is the clear cut number one interior offensive lineman for me in this entire class. And I don't really think the power profile speaks for itself. The numbers speak for itself. The anchor speaks for itself. I don't really think there's anything more that I need to say about Awane himself. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. There are my top 10 guards in the 2026 NFL Draft. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope I see you in the next one.